Most people expect healing and growth work to work like this. And then after time, they're convinced it looks like this. What healing and growth work actually look like are this. And right here is where you're getting stuck. And that's what's keeping you from getting to this, which is actually where you want to be. Most people feel like this person here trying to push this boulder up the hill. And they're just going up and down and up and down, and it feels like they're going backwards. But you're not. Trauma healing has a shape to it. It's that spiral that I showed you before. So let me break this down for you, because the more you understand this, the more it's going to help you get through those tough times as you continue to grow as a person. The easiest way for me to explain this is through the seasons, because life is like the seasons. And so you start with spring, and everything is feeling good. Things are starting to grow. You can see some progress. And then you start moving into summer, and everything's just easy. Life is good. You're evolving and you're moving forward as a person and just feeling great. But what inevitably happens? Highs come down, and you start to get into the fall season of life. And as this comes, a fear sets in. And it's that fear of, oh no, I'm going back to that place that I was. I'm going to end up back in the anxiety. I'm going to end up back in the depression. Because where does the season tend to lead? Into winter. Let's look at a real world example. Spring is maybe you understand why you're isolating and spending too much time alone. And then summer comes around and you're actually out there and connecting with people and making some new friends, and you're feeling really like yourself again. And then fall's going to be when you start noticing that you're kind of pulling away. Maybe something bad happens or you get triggered and you start to notice this urge. And then winter is when you start to shame yourself, start thinking it will never work. This is the way it always goes. You end up in a place where you feel like you're going right back to where you were and what was the whole point. But here's the thing. If you don't go into the winter, then you can't get back to spring. And so it's really important that you don't fight the seasons of life and you just flow with them. Because as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, where most people get trapped is right here. Because what they're doing is they're seeing this summer phase that they could go to. And that's the person trying to push the rock up the mountain and it just keeps coming back. Because you're basically pushing it up this hill, this section we're calling summer, and then saying, nope, you have to go through winter first. You're not actually going backwards. Because if you notice, there's still this line that you can see of growth. It just doesn't always feel like forward momentum because you have to go into that place. You're essentially killing off an old version of yourself. You're removing the emotional baggage. That's what winter is for. It's for that rejuvenation. It's for that transformation. You know, the freeze and the coldness. It forces everything into hibernation and in killing off what might have been there so there can be place for new growth. That's why winter is an important season, even though it's kind of cold. It doesn't feel that great. But early on in your journey, people tend to avoid, overthink. They tend to fight it and build some story around it and shame themselves, which causes it to be much bigger, much more intense, and can end up lasting months and even years. And then as you start to evolve, you have this willingness to go into it. You've probably heard people talk about how they love it when they get triggered because there's something else they can release themselves from. So it's not that they're not getting triggered at all. It's that there's this completely different energy and perspective around it. When they get to that place, they notice, feel, and allow for that winter and those emotions to come up within them. Because they're not adding all the other stuff, it isn't as intense and it doesn't typically last as long. And usually will only last hours and days once somebody's pretty far down the road. Things that really bothered me my whole life got to a point where they'd bother me for a couple weeks. Then there was a period of time where I knew that nothing would last longer than a day. And then it got to hours. And I would say now things fluctuate between a couple of minutes to an hour, day at worst. If you're getting stuck in one of these loops for months on end, you kind of know where you are. If you can move through things within 10, 20 minutes, an hour, well, then you're pretty far down the road. It just depends. And some things you're going to be able to move through faster, and other things are going to take a hard time. And that really shows you where you are in the pattern of growing through something. So you should have a better understanding now of what it actually looks like to heal. I know for myself, I would constantly get trapped in that period where I thought I was going backwards. I thought I was regressing. And once I could see that I was just killing off an old version of myself to make room for something new, it gave me a lot more peace and confidence and willingness to go through those winters of life. So embrace it. Wherever it is or wherever you are, just be there. Because eventually you'll come back around to spring and then summer, and before you know it, you'll be into a fall. But eventually this stuff becomes less intense and it won't last as long. And that's really where you want to get as you're evolving as a person. So until next time, my friend, keep trusting your gut, keep trusting your intuition. See ya.